My grandfather left me a note tucked inside his deed when he died. 5 words. That was it. Don't let the bastards take what's yours. I didn't fully understand it then. I do now. My name is Dakota Flint, 47 years old. Structural engineer. Divorced. I drive a 2008 Silverado that burns a quart of oil every month. Nothing special about me, except one thing. My grandfather left me 47 acres of Colorado forest worth about $4 million. And when I drove up to visit it for the first time in 3 years, there was an entire neighborhood where my forest used to be. Paved roads. Street lights. Families moving furniture into houses they'd paid $485,000 each for. 96 houses. Built on my land. Not by accident. On purpose. William Flint bought that land in 1971 for $8,200 cash. Depression-era man. Kept every receipt in leather ledgers that smelled like pipe tobacco and WD-40. When he died in 2019, he left it to me directly, not my dad, who'd moved away and wanted nothing to do with it. Me. I hadn't visited in 3 years. Divorce. 2 kids in college. 70-hour work weeks. But I paid my property taxes every April without fail, $6,400, always on time, always online, email receipts saved in a folder I never thought I'd need. August 2022, I finally drove up to scatter Grandpa's ashes. I turned off Highway 36 onto the old fire road, and my stomach dropped. The pine forest was gone. In its place, 96 Mediterranean stucco houses with fake balconies and HOA-mandated beige paint. A carved stone entrance sign read Ridgeline Heights, a Whitmore luxury community. I checked my GPS 4 times. Same coordinates. Same parcel. This was my land. At the gatehouse, a security guard stopped me. Residents only. I own this property, I said, holding up my phone with the deed photo. He smirked. Sure, buddy. And I'm Elon Musk. Turn around. Before I could respond, a white Range Rover pulled up. Out stepped a woman I would come to know as Cassandra Whitmore. Mid-50s, wearing white linen that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage, with the specific energy of someone who had never been told no by anyone who mattered. She looked at me. Work boots. Carhartt jacket. Calloused hands. I watched her file me under not a problem. If you're looking for construction work, most crews have filled their labor positions. But I can take your number. I'm not looking for work. I'm the legal owner. My grandfather, William Flint. She pulled out her phone, scrolled with manicured nails. Our title company ran a forensic search. This land was abandoned for over 3 years, which under Colorado adverse possession statute means nothing if property taxes were paid, I said. Her smile went sharp. That's adorable. You know, just enough to be dangerous. She produced a business card between 2 fingers like it was contaminated. Brian Keir, our attorney. He'll explain why your claim is, what's the legal term? Frivolous. How many houses are sold? All 96. Pre-construction sales totaled 16 million. Families are moving in by Thanksgiving. She said it like a threat. This is a legitimate development, properly permitted through Boulder County. If you continue trespassing, I'll call Sheriff Mitchell personally. We're major contributors to his department's equipment fund. Then she pulled out her phone and photographed my license plate, just in case you decide to come back and vandalize anything. She leaned closer. Trust me, honey, people like you don't win against people like us. I drove home with shaking hands. That night, I spread Grandpa's documents across my kitchen table. The 1971 deed, 47 annual tax receipts, survey maps, every record going back to the beginning. Cassandra had threatened me, photographed my truck, and implied I was a criminal. She had also just given me everything I needed to bury her. Monday morning, I called Brian Keir, Cassandra's attorney. His receptionist offered me a settlement of $15,000 if I'd sign a quitclaim deed by Friday. $15,000. For $4 million in land. I knew enough from my divorce to know what a quitclaim deed was. You're signing away all your rights to something without anyone promising those rights actually exist. It's the legal equivalent of saying I give up. Don't even care if I'm right. Tell Mr. Keir I'll see him in court, I said. and hung up. I needed a real lawyer. Not the kind who handled my divorce for $2,200. The kind who makes other lawyers check their malpractice insurance. My buddy Marcus, a civil engineer in Cheyenne, gave me one name: Lydia Chun. She'd beaten a railroad company in a Wyoming adverse possession case so thoroughly they'd offered her a job just to make her stop. Her consultation fee was $500. I paid it on a credit card and prayed. Lydia's office smelled like old leather and lemon furniture polish, the kind of smell that costs money to maintain. She was about 60, gray hair in a tight bun, reading glasses on a beaded chain. She listened to my entire story without interrupting, making notes in handwriting so precise it looked like a font. When I finished, she set down her pen. "Show me your tax receipts." I pulled out a folder thick enough to hurt someone. Email confirmations, bank statements, county records, every April payment since 2019, plus copies going back to Grandpa's first payment in 1971. She flipped through them. I watched her mouth twitch into something that might have been a smile on a less controlled face. Colorado adverse possession requires 18 years of open, continuous, hostile possession, and the squatter has to pay property taxes the entire time. Since you've been paying, their claim is stillborn. We could get an injunction, stop construction. Good, I said. But here's what I do instead. And you're going to think I've lost my mind. She closed the folder. Let them finish building. I stared at her. If you stop construction now, Cassandra's company declares bankruptcy. Your land gets tied up in a 3-year litigation circus with 96 families who bought homes in good faith suing everyone, including you. Banks, title companies, insurance companies. It becomes legal whack-a-mole. She leaned forward. But if you let them finish, then file for declaratory judgment. You own 96 completed houses. Cassandra's company has committed textbook fraud by selling property they don't own. They'll be desperate to settle, because the alternative is prison. My hands were shaking. What if they win? They won't. But even in some parallel universe where they did, you've lost nothing. Your land's already occupied. The difference is whether you fight one corrupt developer or 96 traumatized families.
Cold. Strategic.
Brutal. And it made perfect sense. How much? I asked. $40,000 in legal fees, maybe 50. But when we win, and we will, the court awards damages for trespass, unjust enrichment, fraud, and attorney's fees. You'll own the houses outright. I had $12,000 in savings. My truck needed a transmission. My daughter's tuition was due in January. I'll figure it out, I heard myself say. One more thing. Lydia's voice dropped. Don't contact Cassandra. Don't post on Facebook. Don't tell anyone except your kids and maybe one trusted friend. In property litigation, surprise is worth more than gold. September bled into October. I drove past Ridgeline Heights twice a week, parking on the public road with my phone camera running. Framers swarmed like ants. The air smelled like sawdust and diesel. Every visit, I took time-stamped photos. Cassandra spotted me during her 3rd week. I could see her from 200 yards away, gesturing at my truck like I was a bomb. 20 minutes later, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up behind me. Deputy Torres, young, uncomfortable, caught between a rock and a campaign donor. "Sir, need to see your license." He ran my plates, came back looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Mrs. Whitmore says you've been harassing her, following her, taking pictures." "I'm documenting construction on property I own." Check Boulder County records, parcel APN 55932-408. Owner, Dakota Flint. Look, if there's a property dispute, that's civil court. But she's filed a formal complaint. If she calls again saying you're threatening her, I'll have to take action. Understand? Translation. She donates to the sheriff's re-election fund. You don't. Understood. He left. I kept taking pictures. By November, the first families had moved in. U-Hauls blocking cul-de-sacs, kids on scooters. I watched a couple carry a crib into house number 43. Watched another family plant a maple tree in their front yard. I felt sick, because these weren't villains. They were people who'd saved for down payments, who believed they were living the American dream. Cassandra was about to learn that stealing costs more than money. Thanksgiving week, she sent me a certified letter. 3 pages of dense legal language that boiled down to, "Stop trespassing or we'll sue you for harassment." A photo attached, my Silverado parked on the public road, my license plate circled in red Sharpie. Handwritten in the margin, "Document everything." I drove straight to Lydia's office. She read the letter, then started laughing. Not the polite kind. The genuine belly laugh of someone who'd just been handed a gift. "They're documenting their own fraud," she said, wiping her eyes. "Every letter they send, every photo they take, every interaction, it's evidence that they knew there was a dispute and kept building anyway." She pulled out a yellow legal pad. "Meanwhile, I need you to find everything about Cassandra Whitmore. Property records, business filings, tax liens, anything public. I want to know who's financing this development." So, I became an amateur detective. It turns out when you're a structural engineer, you know how to read plats, survey maps, and permit applications. Whitmore Development LLC was registered in Delaware. Always a red flag. Delaware corporations are like offshore accounts for people who want to hide things. Cassandra was the sole managing member, but the financing came from Ridgeline Capital Group, a Denver-based investment firm. I dug deeper. Ridgeline Capital was owned by 3 partners, one of whom was married to Cassandra. His name was Preston Whitmore, a real estate developer who'd been sued twice for construction defects and once for defrauding investors in a failed resort project. Cases settled quietly. Records sealed. This wasn't just Cassandra's scam. It was a family business. I found more. The Boulder County permits listed the land as formerly tax delinquent, acquired via adverse possession claim filed March 2022. But here's the thing about adverse possession. You can't just claim it. You have to prove it in court first, get a judgment, then record that judgment before you can sell. They had skipped that step. They'd filed a claim, then immediately started selling lots as if the claim had already been granted. That's fraud. Premeditated, documented fraud. I sent everything to Lydia in an encrypted email. She called an hour later. "Dakota, this is better than I thought. If we can prove Preston knew about your ownership and proceeded anyway, this becomes criminal fraud, not just civil trespass." December 3rd, I got a call from Boulder County Code Enforcement. A man named Rick Polson, who sounded tired in the way government workers do when they're on their 50th complaint of the day. "Mr. Flint, we've received a report that you're operating an illegal dumping site on parcel 559322408. There are piles of construction debris, old vehicles, possible hazardous waste." I drove up that afternoon with my phone recording. The property was pristine, except for the 96 houses Cassandra had illegally built. No debris, no vehicles, nothing. Rick Polson walked the perimeter, checked behind the houses, came back shaking his head. "There's nothing here. Someone filed a false report." "Who filed it?" He checked his notes. "Anonymous tip. But it came through Mrs. Whitmore's office as a concerned citizen complaint." He looked at me for a long moment. "Off the record, I've inspected 6 Whitmore projects. Every single one had complaints filed against neighboring landowners right before construction permits were approved. It's a pattern." He handed me his card. "If you need a witness statement, call me." I drove home with that card in my pocket and rage in my chest. Cassandra wasn't just stealing my land. She was trying to bury me in bureaucratic quicksand while she finished construction. But every move she made was digging her grave deeper. By Christmas, 84 houses were occupied. Families hung lights, kids built snowmen. And I had a court date scheduled for January 12th. January 4th, 8 days before court, I got a text from my daughter Emma at 11 at night. "Dad, did you get arrested? Someone posted on Facebook that you're harassing families in a neighborhood. It has 300 shares." I found the post immediately. It was pinned to the top of the Boulder County Community Watch group, written by Cassandra herself. "Alert! Local man Dakota Flint has been stalking our family-friendly Ridgeline Heights community, taking photos of children, making residents feel unsafe. He claims to own our neighborhood despite clear legal title. Boulder County Sheriff's aware. Please report any sightings. Protect your families." The comments were a dumpster fire. People calling me a predator. Someone posted a photo of my Silverado with my plate visible, captioned, "This is his truck. Stay safe, everyone." My hands were shaking so hard I could barely dial. Lydia answered on the first ring.
I saw it.
"She's calling me a pedophile, Lydia."
My daughter's crying.
"My son called asking if I'm going to jail."
I know.
"And it's defamation, and we're adding it to the lawsuit. But if you engage, you look guilty. Let me handle this." Her voice softened slightly. "Dakota, this is what desperate people do. She knows we filed. She knows her attorney's seeing our evidence. This is a Hail Mary to discredit you before trial. It's working. I've gotten 12 messages from people I went to high school with." "Good. Screenshot everything. Every share, every comment, every message. It's all evidence of malice." By midnight, it had 847 shares. I didn't sleep. The next morning, my boss Martin called me into his office. "Dakota, I got a call this morning from a potential client. They Googled our firm and found a situation with your name attached." He rubbed his face. "They're a school district, nervous about optics. I told them you're on personal leave pending resolution of a legal matter, which, effective today, you are." He slid an envelope across his desk. "Paid leave, 2 weeks. If this gets resolved, you're back immediately. If it doesn't," he didn't finish. I took the envelope. Walking to my truck, I passed Jenny from accounting. She'd always been friendly, brought Christmas cookies, asked about my kids. She saw me coming and crossed to the other side of the parking lot. That's when I understood what Cassandra was doing. She wasn't just attacking my legal claim.
She was attacking my life.
My reputation.
My job.
My ability to exist in my own community. I called Lydia from the parking lot. "They're destroying me. I just got put on leave. People are crossing the street to avoid me. I'm filing an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order. Defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, interference with business relations. We'll have a hearing Monday."
She paused.
"But Dakota, this gets worse before it gets better. If you want to walk away, I'll negotiate a settlement. You'll get something. Maybe $500,000. You can move. Start over." I thought about Grandpa's note. "Don't let the bastards take what's yours." "No," I said. "We finish this. Then buckle up. Because they're going to hit harder." She was right. January 7th, someone spray-painted a word on my garage door. I won't repeat it. I filed a police report. The responding officer took photos with the enthusiasm of a man filling out a DMV form. January 9th, 3 days before court, my son Tyler called from Fort Collins, his voice shaking. Someone had gone to the restaurant where he worked as a line cook. A man in a suit, claiming to be a private investigator, asking his manager if Tyler was reliable, if I'd ever been violent, if there were incidents he should know about. Tyler's manager had pulled him aside afterward and asked if there was something he needed to tell him. "Dad, I could lose my job." I took down the investigator's name from the business card Tyler described, Thomas Brennan, Apex Investigations. When I reached Lydia, she was already cold with fury. "That's witness tampering, which is a felony. Forward me that card photo. I'm filing an emergency motion tomorrow morning." January 23rd, I got a letter from the IRS. Notice of audit, citing irregularities reported by a third party. I was a W-2 employee with simple taxes. There were no irregularities. Lydia called immediately. "They're burning bridges. This is what happens when rich people panic. They throw money at problems until the problems go away. It's working. You won't have to face an IRS audit. The complaint is anonymous, but we can subpoena Apex Investigations client records. If we prove the Whitmores filed a false IRS report, that's another felony." A pause. "Dakota, they're making mistakes. Desperate people always do." January 25th, someone leaked the Ridgeline Heights sales contracts to a Boulder real estate blog. All 96 contracts, showing buyers had paid between $450,000 and $530,000 for homes built on disputed land. The headline: "Luxury developer sold homes on stolen property. Buyers may lose everything." My phone exploded. A woman named Sarah Chin called me crying. She'd used her entire life savings on house number 67, moved from California, called it her forever home. "Mr. Flint, please. I have 2 kids. What happens if you win? Do we get evicted?
I'm not trying to take your house, I said.
I'm trying to stop the people who stole from both of us. That night, Lydia called. Channel 9 wants to interview you. Patricia Hughes, investigative reporter. She's doing a segment on predatory land developers. It airs February 2nd, 1 week before trial. What do I say? The truth. That you're fighting for your grandfather's legacy. That you're not the enemy. The Whitmores are. And that every family in Ridgeline Heights deserves to keep their home. I thought about Sarah Chen's voice on the phone.
Set it up, I said.
The Channel 9 interview aired February 2nd at 6 in the evening. I watched it alone with a beer. I was too nervous to drink. Patricia's voiceover began. He inherited the American dream, 47 acres of Colorado forest. But when Dakota Flint visited his land for the first time in 3 years, he found a nightmare instead. They showed aerial footage of Ridgeline Heights, then my interview, cut with Grandpa's deed, the tax receipts, and Preston's smoking gun email. Patricia had also obtained county permit records showing the Whitmores had fast-tracked approvals by donating $50,000 to a county commissioner's re-election fund. The piece ended with me saying, I'm not trying to hurt the families who bought these homes. They're victims too. But if we let people like the Whitmores get away with this, what's the point of property rights? What's the point of laws? My phone exploded before the segment finished. Emma called, proud tears this time. Marcus texted, You just became a folk hero. Even my boss Martin emailed. Come back to work Monday. We're proud to have you. The message that mattered came at 7:15 from a block number. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. I forwarded it to Lydia. Don't go anywhere alone. She replied immediately. Vary your routes. Keep your doors locked. She was right to worry. February 4th, 2 days after the broadcast, I came home from grocery shopping to find my front door ajar. I'd locked it. I was certain. I called 911 from the porch. Deputy Torres arrived with backup. They cleared the house room by room. Nothing stolen. But on my kitchen table sat a single sheet of paper with 5 words in block letters. Drop it or lose everything. 2 hours later, my neighbor Carol knocked on my door. 70 years old, retired librarian. Noticed everything on the street. Dakota, I saw a black Audi parked across the street yesterday around noon. Man in a suit got out, walked up your driveway, came back about 10 minutes later. I thought he was a salesman. Seemed odd, so I wrote down the plate. She handed me a sticky note. I gave it to Torres. He ran it. The vehicle was registered to Apex Investigations, Thomas Brennan's company. I spent that night on Emma's couch in Fort Collins with my phone charging beside me and a baseball bat leaning against the wall. February 6th, 3 days before trial, Lydia called. The title company flipped. Rocky Mountain Title is cooperating with our investigation. They're admitting they knew the adverse possession claim was shaky, but approved it anyway because Preston paid them $45,000 under the table. They're giving us everything, emails, payment records, recorded phone calls. So we have them. We have them. But Dakota, Cassandra knows it too. Her attorney called begging for a settlement conference. What did you say? We'll see them in court. A pause. 3 more days. Stay safe, stay quiet, and get ready to watch everything burn. February 9th. Trial day. I put on the same suit I'd worn to the first hearing, still too tight in the shoulders, and drove to Boulder with Emma riding shotgun. She'd insisted on coming. Said I needed family there. The courthouse parking lot was chaos. 2 news vans had cameras on the steps. Inside, Courtroom 3C was packed. At least 40 families from Ridgeline Heights had shown up. I recognized Sarah Chen sitting 3 rows back, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. Hope, maybe, or the terror of someone who might lose everything. Cassandra and Preston sat at the defense table with 4 attorneys. Reinforcements. Cassandra wore a cream-colored suit that probably cost $5,000. Her face was composed, but I could see her hands shaking when she reached for her water glass. Judge Ramirez entered. We stood. She looked over her reading glasses at the packed gallery. Before we begin, this is a court of law, not a circus. Anyone who disrupts proceedings will be removed. She turned to Lydia. Opening statement. Lydia stood. The room went silent. She didn't need a microphone. "Your Honor, this case is about theft. Not the kind that happens in dark alleys with masks and guns. The kind that happens in boardrooms, with LLCs and forged documents." She walked toward the bench. Dakota Flint inherited 47 acres from his grandfather, a man who paid cash for that land in 1971 and meticulously maintained it for 48 years. When Mr. Flint couldn't visit for 3 years due to work and family obligations, the defendant saw an opportunity. She held up Preston's email, blown up to poster size. This email, written by Preston Whitmore, proves they knew Dakota Flint was the legal owner. They knew their adverse possession claim would fail. They built anyway because they calculated correctly that most people can't afford to fight. A pause. Let that sink in. They picked the wrong victim. Because Dakota Flint kept every receipt, every tax payment, every survey map. And he refused to quit. She turned to face Cassandra and Preston directly. The defendants committed fraud. They broke into Mr. Flint's home. They hired private investigators to harass his children. They filed false IRS complaints. They turned his life into a nightmare because he dared to assert his legal rights. She walked back to our table. "We're not asking for mercy, Your Honor. We're asking for justice. And we have the receipts." She sat down. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in 3 months. The trial lasted 7 hours. Lydia called witnesses, the title company representative who admitted taking a bribe, Rick Polson from Code Enforcement, who testified about the pattern of false complaints filed against neighboring landowners on every Whitmore project, Deputy Torres, who described the harassment campaign against me. She entered Grandpa's ledgers into evidence. Those tobacco-scented pages that proved continuous ownership for 50 years. Preston took the stand. Lydia destroyed him in 40 minutes. Every question was a trap. Every answer dug him deeper. By the end, he was stammering, contradicting his deposition testimony, looking to his attorney for rescue that never came. Cassandra refused to testify. Fifth Amendment. At 4:47, Judge Ramirez announced she'd issue a ruling within 24 hours. We filed out into the hallway. The homeowners surrounded me. Sarah Chun grabbed my arm. "What happens to us if you win? Do we lose our homes?" I looked at Lydia. She nodded. "You keep your homes," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Every single one of you. The Whitmores committed fraud, not you. You'll own your houses free and clear. That's the settlement we're demanding." The room went silent. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Within seconds, 40 people were applauding in a courthouse hallway. Cassandra walked past, flanked by her attorneys. She looked at me once, pure hatred, then disappeared into the elevator. Outside, Patricia Hughes caught me on the courthouse steps. "Mr. Flint, how are you feeling?" I looked at the cameras. At Emma, beside me. At the Rockies in the distance, snow-covered and eternal, indifferent to everything that had just happened inside. "Like my grandfather's watching," I said. "And he's proud." The clip went viral overnight. 3 million views in 12 hours. The next morning, Judge Ramirez issued her ruling. 18 pages. The first paragraph said everything. The defendants engaged in a calculated, systematic scheme to defraud Dakota Flint of his lawful property through false adverse possession claims, bribery of public officials, and intentional misrepresentation. Such conduct is reprehensible and will not be tolerated by this court. Full title to all 47 acres, including the 96 houses. $4.2 million in damages for trespass, emotional distress, and loss of use. Lydia's legal fees, $73,000. Paid by the Whitmores. And a referral to the U.S. Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. Ridgeline Capital dissolved within a week. The Range Rover, the Aspen vacation home, Cassandra's jewelry collection, all went to auction to pay creditors. Preston was indicted on 6 federal fraud charges. Cassandra took a plea deal, 3 years probation, $500,000 in restitution, a lifetime ban from Colorado real estate development. The title company lost its license. Cassandra's attorney resigned from his firm to avoid disbarment. But the ruling created a new problem. What to do with 96 families who'd bought homes on my land? Legally, I could have forced them out, sold the houses myself, pocketed another $16 million. A lot of people expected exactly that. Instead, I called a town hall meeting at Ridgeline Heights on March 15th. All 96 families showed up, cramming into the unfinished clubhouse Cassandra had promised, but never built. Sarah Chin stood at the front holding her daughter's hand. An elderly couple named the Rodriguezes sat in the back, looking terrified. I stood at the front with Lydia beside me. "I know you're scared," I said. "You bought these homes in good faith. You did nothing wrong. And I'm not here to punish you for someone else's crime." The room was so quiet I could hear snow melting on the roof. "Here's what I'm proposing. I'm transferring ownership of all 96 homes to the Ridgeline Heights Community Trust, a nonprofit we're establishing today. Each family will own their home through the trust at the price you originally paid. No mortgages, no interest, just what you've already invested. If you've paid $485,000, you owe nothing more. If you still have payments, you finish them to the trust at zero interest." Someone gasped. Sarah Chin started crying. "The trust will use those funds to maintain roads, cover property taxes, and establish a scholarship fund for kids in this community. My grandfather believed land was about legacy, not profit. This is his legacy." The applause started slowly, then built like a thunderstorm. People were hugging, crying, calling out across the room. An elderly man, Mr. Rodriguez, walked up and shook my hand so hard I thought my shoulder would dislocate. "You're a good man," he said. "Your grandfather raised you right." The scholarship fund launched in September. The William Flint Memorial Scholarship, $10,000 annually for a Colorado student studying engineering, forestry, or environmental science. Emma helped me set it up. Said Grandpa would have loved that his ledgers full of timber sale records were now funding someone's education. I kept 5 acres for myself at the north end, the part with the old-growth pines Grandpa had refused to log. Built a small cabin, 2 bedrooms, nothing fancy. Sold my house in town, and moved in last October. I wake up every morning to the smell of pine and coffee. Watch deer graze outside my window. Tyler visits on weekends. Emma brings her boyfriend, a law student, naturally. Even my ex-wife Jennifer came by once with her new husband. Said she was proud of me. That felt strange, but good. Last week, Sarah Chen's daughter drew me a picture. A crayon house with a stick figure holding a giant piece of paper labeled deed. Stick figure says, "Mr. Dakota." It's on my fridge now, held up by a magnet shaped like Colorado. I think about Grandpa's note sometimes. "Don't let the bastards take what's yours." He was right. But what's mine isn't just the land or the money. It's knowing that 96 families sleep safely because I didn't quit. It's a scholarship that'll help some kid who reminds me of myself, broke, stubborn, just trying to build something. It's justice. The real kind. The kind that heals.
Now,
before you go, here's what I want you to take from this story, because it isn't just a David and Goliath tale. The Whitmores built their entire scheme on one assumption, that most people don't keep their records. That most people can't prove continuous ownership over 50 years. That most people, when hit with harassment and defamation and IRS audits and broken windows and threats scrawled in their garage in the dark of January, most people will do the math and decide the fight isn't worth it. They were right about most people. They were wrong about my grandfather. Because my grandfather kept every receipt, every letter, every handshake deal he ever made, written down and filed in leather ledgers that smelled like pipe tobacco. And when the moment came, those ledgers were the nuclear weapon that a fake LLC and a $50,000 bribe to a county commissioner couldn't survive. Know what you own. Document everything. Pay attention to what's yours even when life gets busy and it's easy to assume things will take care of themselves. And find yourself a Lydia Chen. Have you ever dealt with a property dispute, an HOA nightmare, or someone who tried to steamroll you because they thought their money outweighed your rights? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story mattered to you, if it reminded you that regular people can still beat corrupt systems when they've got the records to back it up, hit subscribe. Because next week I'm back with another one. And remember,
keep your receipts.
All of them.
See you then.